Welcome to our Weekend Warriors for CHIRO for Kids, and today we're talking all about tongue and lip ties. Fun topic, probably one of our favorites.
Big topic, ever-evolving topic, and we, I guess, want to start out with, of course, what is it? What can you look for? And also emphasize that this tissue, the tongue or the lip tie, can be present in virtually everyone, virtually every babe. We'll stick to babes as much as we possibly can. But just because it's there does not mean that there's a problem. So
yes.
We don't want this to be stressful or overwhelming, especially if you are paying attention to your babe now and the tissues in his or her mouth.
Right. So to start, just what is a tie? Kind of like Mariah said, we all have ties underneath our tongue, hence the word tongue tie. There's a piece of tissue that connects from the bottom of your tongue to the floor of your mouth to hold your tongue in place. What can happen is that this tissue can be too tight, too thick, not have proper mobility,
Right.
which then starts to affect oral function. Very important, especially as a baby whose sole job is to eat, breathe, and sleep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We need that little one to thrive through feeding, whichever way that may be. And feeding can truly be affected at the breast and or bottle. And then, of course, because my brain is there, Dr. Cassidy mentioned the sleeping piece. This tie, so if we're talking tongue tie, that tissue under the tongue, if you lift your tongue, you might be able to see that, could also be so short and tight that it is keeping babe's mouth open. So paying attention to some of that mouth breathing,
Yes.
especially during nighttime, the sleeping piece.
That would definitely be one of the key signs of a tie would be that open mouth breathing, especially when they're asleep or even in older kiddos. We're going to try to stick to babes.
Yes.
We could go on tangents, otherwise this is going to be an hour long. So yes, essentially this tissue underneath our tongue, it's too tight. It's affecting the mouth function, the oral function. There's also some babes that have a lip tie or cheek ties. Very similar. It's a tight banded tissue, either on the sides of the cheeks or connecting the upper lip to the upper gums. The lip ties are actually less of a functional issue compared to the tongue ties, but a lot of the times when you have a tongue tie, you're going to have or if you have a lip tie, you probably have other ties.
Right.
So just something to look for. I tell babes if they have no symptoms, no issues, no functional problems with a lip tie, it's usually cosmetic. A gap might form in the front teeth because that tissue is blocking, but like that, it's adorable, it's so cute. So really not a big deal unless you want to get it fixed.
Unless you have braces in 11th grade to close that gap, and now I still, of course, permanent retainer top and bottom. So that was definitely me. I don't know if this is weird, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to lift my top lip because personally I think that my lip tie, that frenulum, that tissue, is still pretty thick. So of course it wasn't this thick, I'm sure, as an infant, right? But if I lift real quick here, you can see that tissue.
Yes. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And the gap was very, very obvious when I was younger. So, again, a cosmetic deal.
Yes, mostly. But when there's tongue tie presence, other ties, other oral restrictions causing functional issues, that's when we talk about adding therapies in like craniosacral or maybe getting that tie revised. So we briefly mentioned the mouth breathing and sleep. Other signs of ties, it's really wide ranging, especially for newborns. You're going to notice difficulty breastfeeding, bottle feeding, latching, getting baby to be full for feedings. You might start seeing a lazy eater. We hear moms call their babies. Babies are not lazy eaters, but if eating is a lot of work for them, they're going to get fatigued more quickly.
Right. If feeding takes that 45, 60-ish minutes.
Yes.
Another maybe little clue there.
Right.
Well,
so long periods of feeding. And then as babe gets a little bit older, that 1 month of life, you may start noticing GI issues, reflux, gas, colic, and then those sleep disturbances that go along with the colic and gas and reflux piece.
Because babe could also be tight. Right now, colic can mean different things to different people, but if we're maybe also talking about fussiness, going back to well, of course, Dr. Cassidy just listed these symptoms, which are not just at the mouth, right? Again, GI things, etc. Maybe you notice babe is really tight and curled up to one side. There's a head preference that could eventually lead to a flat spot. Because starting at the mouth where those tissues are, we have a band of fascia, which is just as strong, if not stronger, than our muscles.
Yep, it's like a plastic wrap,
Yes.
like saran wrap that acts like duct tape, and it wraps around everything.
Everything internally. That tissue starts at our tongue, connects very specifically into our diaphragm. So that's where we're working a lot of times with a tight, fussy baby, colicky baby, very much so with reflux.
Yes.
And that tissue, of course, attaches into our hips, down our inner thighs, and all the way down to our feet.
Yep, so that tension, it's a lot more common. I feel like I see ties with reflux infants quite a bit because of that diaphragm tightness, but also because they can't get a good latch or seal, so they're consuming a lot of air during their feedings. You might hear clicking or popping sounds or gulping even. That would be a sign that your babe's probably intaking air, which is going to eventually cause reflux, pain, excess spit up, or then gas issues lower in the GI system. So, like we said, we could probably talk for hours about ties, but let's get to our in-office techniques. One of the big ones is craniosacral therapy. So craniosacral therapy, we have a million videos about it on our channel, all the things. But essentially, it's very gentle pressure that works with the suture bones of the skull and the craniosacral system, which is all the membranes that surround our nervous system and the cerebrospinal fluid. Works with all that to calm everything down and get it regulated.
Right.
So that's where that really helps with the tension piece that the fascia is holding with the tongue.
Right. So we want to tap into our parasympathetic nervous system there. That is our rest and digest as well. So just like Dr. Cassidy mentioned, calmness, decreasing tension.
Yeah.
I joke that it's one of the hardest things to do because it's the lightest thing that we do in office. So
Yes.
about 5 grams of pressure. If you can imagine setting a nickel on your forearm, on your thigh, it almost feels like nothing, but incredible for babe. So
Yes. And as far as your homework for at home, look in your babe's mouth. Sounds silly. Take a peek, see if you notice any signs of a tie, tension, restriction. And if you do, or you feel like the mouth feels tight, try out our oral stretches. So we don't have a babe here to demo for you today, but it's very simple. Essentially, you're going to sweep along the side of the cheeks in a C fashion, rainbow fashion on both sides. You're gonna lift on both sides underneath the tongue, lift up on either side of that tie, and then you're gonna stretch the upper lip by simply just lifting with either your finger or by the lip. And then while we're breastfeeding, we wanna make sure both of those lips are fully flared and fully covering nipple or bottle.
So don't allow those lips to be tucked under. You want to see as much as the pink of babe's lips as possible.
Yes.
Remember, again, good seal. That's what we're looking for. So it's all about oral function. Just reminding you that it doesn't necessarily matter if the tissue is there or not.
Right. So if you have any questions or want a more detailed explanation, go watch the oral stretches video on our channel and you will get a better recap of kind of what that might look like, especially if you are post-revision. Subscribe to our channel.
Thank you.